It's nice to meet you here in London for Love Actually. It's quite a terrific feel-good movie. Is it the kind of story you read and you feel that, you know, you just have a sense of an idea of what it's going to be?
Well, as far as our story, yes and no. The lake scene, I had no idea how it was going to turn. But
it's quite hard to visualize something that's so broad. I think, you know, there are going to be... When I first read it, I didn't know who was going to be playing all the parts, and it doesn't have a linear narrative. So there were so many different elements to try to imagine that I certainly didn't have a sense of the whole. No, I didn't feel good when I read it. I could see that it was intelligent, and I could see that it had enormous potential. And I know that you don't bet against Richard Curtis, really, because he's got something like 100% strike rate now with almost everything he does. And I was very curious to see the work in progress of somebody who is such a master.
Well, what was really interesting is those intertwined stories. How did that translate in you guys working? Did you get interested in the other story plots, or not really? You were just in your storyline the whole shoot?
Well, I got interested in every story, really enjoyed the rock star story. And actually all the stories, and Liam Neeson's story too, Thomas the little boy, it's really nice. I got really interested in, as I was reading the script, to know what was the ending, how it was going to end up. But of course I gave a little bit more of attention on our story.
We felt like it was our own film for a little while, because the film started with us.
That's true.
We were at the very beginning in France, and they hadn't worked with anybody else yet. So for a while, it was as if it was ours. And I felt a bit jealous of all the other stuff and all the other stories. And so when everybody came back to England and all these imposters arrived on the set, you know, to do other stories, you can't do this. This is about us. We should all go back to France. And so in some ways, it was a very odd sensation to have so much going on that you're not a part of. I was very curious to see how we would interweave in the finished product.
Well, your storyline is the most endearing in the sense that, you know, it's the most romantic idea to think that you don't need to speak to fall in love. I love that idea. What do you think? Hardcore romantic.
It's also one of the, I think, one of the most straightforwardly happy stories in the film. I mean, I think in some ways the least complicated, despite the complications of the language. I start off hurt, but from that moment it just gets better and better and better and better. And I don't think there's anyone else in the film that has that kind of journey. It was extremely simple.
What do you think?
Well, I agree with him, and I think it's funny when we realize that maybe we don't need to know what, or falling in love doesn't have to do always with what we say to each other.
Exactly.
Just
perhaps it
the
helps.
way we are, and it helps him maybe.
Probably helps, because everything I say is so stupid that if you'd understood a word of it, I don't think you'd have looked at me anymore.
No, but it is a pure way to fall in love, and that's what was nice about it. How did you work, you know, on the chemistry of the couple? Obviously, it's not, you know, the kind of usual chemistry you see. It's something different of an approach.
We just fell into it, really, didn't we?
I think we did, yes.
I don't think that there are no stories to tell about preparation or rehearsal particularly. No. We did a little bit of rehearsal.
Yeah, we had one rehearsal.
I think it's often there or it's not. I don't. It's very hard to cultivate that with any work. We either fit together and we get on, and we got on great, and we had fun on the set, and I think that helps with relaxation and familiarity, and I don't think you can do much more than that, really.
Yeah, no, that's true. What about Richard Curtis in the sense of how he works with you and just, you know, transfers his enthusiasm?
With me, it was amazing. You know, as far as being my first experience in a movie, he helped very much to directing me and giving me so many options of the way I wanted to act, and it was very, very easy and very comfortable. I felt very comfortable with all the crew as well.
Yeah, likewise. He has a sense of humor. He's too intelligent to create a false impression of being in control of things he's not in control of. But he deals with things he doesn't know, because he was not experienced as a director, with such authority as a person and such intelligence that you trusted him. He would, if there was something he didn't understand, he would resolve it.
Sure.
Within seconds, he would understand it. And I feel much more confident with that sort of honesty and imagination than I do with someone who's performing, performing the role of authority. So he was just frank and friendly and smart and approachable and fun to be with. Well, and I think that for a film like this, that's essential.
Well, it's kind of cliche what I'm going to say, but it is very hard to succeed the right ingredient and tone for a romantic comedy, for it to, touch people. What do you feel is the right elements, or the right elements?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Nobody. I mean, if we could harness that secret, we'd all be making millions, And romantic comedies are there are a lot of them around, and they're mostly made quite badly. And nothing is as bad as a romantic comedy that doesn't work. I think if you miss by an inch, you miss by a mile. And they are very hard to get right. I don't know. I think it's there are a lot of elements are involved, but I think if you want to be funny, you can't try too hard to be funny. And I think if you want to be romantic, you can't try too hard. I think that may be an element of it. You've just got to be as honest with what you're doing as you can. And, not ask too much of your audience. I think you've just got to try and tell a story as simply as possible. I think in the case of this, one of the ingredients which I think has helped this film in its texture is that not all of it is sweet.
Yeah, it's true.
I think it would have been much more difficult if we'd told only our story. You'd have had to find those slightly more bitter flavours from somewhere else, I think, and the film has that. You get that in the story between Alan Rickman and Emma Thompson, for instance, and between Laura Linney and her brother. And so they just add flavours that stop it just being one thing, and I think that's probably very important.
Well, we always say that we need more movies like that. Do you agree? I would love to see films like that all the time. Just that, really. But what do you think?
What do I think? I think it's good. As I was watching the film, it's a light movie, and except some of some stories that are more dramatic, but they all have the sense of humor, and when you leave the theater, I think you feel good, and I don't really know how to explain, but it's always good to get a message of love and hope and optimism.
You've got to do it well, that's all. You've just got to pull it off. Because when you say, we want to see more movies like this, there are some people that say, I can't stand seeing any more romantic comedies. I never want to see one as long as I live, because they've seen it done in a way that's misjudged, and it's horrible. So I think, we just want to see more good films is what we want. And somebody quoted to me that one critic had come to this saying, I wanted to hate it. So there's somebody right there who's decided that they don't want to see more films like this, but they just happen to like this because it won them over. And I think that's probably happened to a lot of people. So I think it's in the doing of it well. I
agree.
We can be tired of seeing cynical movies or violent movies, but if they're done brilliantly too, then that can win you. So I think a film that lifts you up and makes you enjoy crying it's a rare thing to see that succeed. We saw them in the 40s quite a lot, and now we see people aiming at it and failing, and I think this one really does work.
No, it does. I've enjoyed it a lot. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.